And welcome everyone to this. Sorry, if people are continuing to come in, so I may just every so often get sidetracked. But just welcome to this. Really, it's an introductory webinar giving people a taste of what Lego Serious Play is about, because I know for many people it's still something very new. Now, the ideal situation would be we would be meeting in person and we would have Lego spread out in front of us, and I'd be able to actually take you through some of the process using the Lego. But we aren't in that situation, so this is really more informational. But certainly in Vietnam, when I'm there, we are planning on having maybe a two or three introductory sessions so that you can come along and get a taste of it. And then there's the training coming up later in August. So with that, I'd just to very quickly, very briefly, what we're going to be doing today. Brief introduction on my end, and I will be asking people to everyone here to also introduce themselves in chat in a moment, and then we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about, what is this thing called Lego Serious Play, and why do we use it? What are the advantages of it, and places where it's used? And I will be introducing the facilitation certification training that we have coming up in both Vietnam and here in Vancouver. And I am actually getting requests for other parts of the world already. And so I'm not, I may well be offering it in some other places after this. And after the questions and time for you to bring up any questions you may have. We'll talk about how can you sign up for the certification training. So, just a little bit about me. Well, I'm actually an academic. I teach at Creativity at the University of British Columbia and also in Vietnam at the Solvay Business School. And so my main focus is creativity. I am moving a little bit away from that at UBC at the moment. Maybe I'm moving into another more senior position, but that is effectively my part-time day job. I am also very happy now to be a trainer of facilitators. Then this is through the LSP method based out of Australia. And I've been a certified facilitator in Lego Serious Play for a while now. I've been using it in academia, and we're moving outside of that into other kinds of organizations as well. I'm also a coach, and I'm really just up sharing this because there is so much power in Lego Serious Play when you understand how to use it and are able to apply it in a number of different situations, and you will see that the power of it. So I want to be able to spread this. I want everyone to be able to do Lego Serious Play. Now, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you and who we have here in the room. It's I'd love you to just drop down into chat, know where you're coming from, and as many of you have uh, your cameras on, I'd just like to maybe have an indication, and I'm going to ask you to do it maybe with your arm as to how much you know about Lego Serious Play. So if you don't know anything, you just do it sort of at this level. And if you know it a lot, have the hand upright. And so I'm just curious as to where we are in terms of people here in here. So I'm seeing a lot of these hands. Okay, David's up there because I know he did the training. Tice is up there. He did the training with me back in June. So that's great. So I see for most of you, this is something totally new. Great, thank you. You can put your hands down. But please share with us in chat, where you're coming from. And so we just have an idea of what the spread is. I'm certainly, from my end, I'm recognizing we've got Argentina, Malaysia, Vancouver, Vietnam. I'm not sure if there are anyone's coming from anywhere else at this point. So so what is Lego Serious Play Methods? And that's actually
Begins.
the correct
Well,
name.
I can talk.
Sure.
I
Okay.
from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Now here I was telling David that is 11 o'clock p.m. So I'm completely upside down with you. Maybe you are going to see me a lot of quotes on me because here is very cold now. And well, I I know David from the Facilitators Club. We share always opinions and where we thought our thoughts about anything we can do to change things, to do better things for education. That's my case. It's education, and I always trying to introduce all agile methodologies uh, among education. For example, nowadays I'm using visual thinking, design thinking, also graphic recording, and I did a post-graduation degree on education and constructivism, so I can um, make this methodology that is mixed between agile situations and education, and use it for children to understand reading comprehension, listening comprehension, uh, also in English and Spanish. Now, next week, I have to give some demonstrations at Costa Rica. Recently, we have done some here in Argentina, and also at Colombia, we did with the people of Pro Familia Colombia. But in that case, was about making people speak drawing with the simple way of drawings to communicate better with others, and also um, don't have fever to don't be fear to uh, have to talk in front of others. So using doodles or drawings is easy. That's it.
Well, yeah, thank you for that, Claudia. I'm just going to ask that for at this point, what we're going to do is, and I appreciate you sharing, if people can share in the chat, because I want to try and keep this to about 1 hour, and I think we'll be able to do that. But we will be having some space a little bit later on, certainly for those who have had experience in facilitating Lego Serious Play to share, some of their experience with this. So, what is Lego Serious Play? Well, up there I've got a couple of things up on the slide. It is something that the first definition is important. It's a systematic, facilitated process. This isn't just about giving people some bricks and saying, let's build something. And I've heard from when I've been talking in some different organizations, I've heard where they have done this. They say, oh, yes, we've got some Lego and we tried to use it. It didn't always seem to be as effective. And that's because they weren't following that systematic, properly facilitated process. So this is why I'm offering the training and the certification in this, because when you do follow the process, it does become very powerful. Now, the elements of Lego Serious Play I've got lower, and this is from a couple of the original facilitators, a couple of the people who were helping to develop Lego Serious Play back in the late 1990s. And they talk about three elements. They talk about it being systematic and systematic within a group. And a lot of, until recently, all the use of Lego Serious Play was in groups. So with COVID, there have been some other techniques developed where it can also be used individually or on a one-on-one basis. But Until recently, it was always in groups. Second thing is that there's a set of principles for the use of the Lego brick. And what we're doing with the Lego is you're probably familiar with it as a toy. Lego is a toy. Kids love it. But the way that we use Lego is as a tool. And it's the system of Lego that is a really powerful tool for us. And then there's the systematic use of the Lego series play techniques. So this is talking about the process that we go through. And there is a process that's used in Lego series play to really maximize the impact. So another way of looking at it, and this is coming from Michael Fern, LSP method out of Australia, that this is where you're able to think different ideas. You're changing your conversations. You're gaining new insights, different insights as a result. And because of this, you're able to take different actions. Another way of putting it, and this is going back to one of the originators of Lego Serious Play, you change the process and then you change the outcome. And so this is why it's such a powerful tool for use. Now, what does a Lego Serious Play session look like? And these are a couple of photos from training that we did in June, where you can see there's Lego on the table, there's a number of people around the table working with the Lego. And then on the second photo, the right-hand photo, they are looking at a model that they put together. They're discussing the different aspects of the model. And this is really demonstrating how working with this within teams and with groups is particularly uh, impactful. So what's happening? Well, in the process, what's happening is we start with a pile of bricks and a question. And this is something that's very much question or topic based. You're responding to a question, you're exploring an issue, or you're looking for an idea to solve a problem. And so all the individuals start by building a response to that question or to the issue. And as they're building, they're using the bricks as metaphors. They're representative of something. When they've made the model that they've built, they then go around and share, and everyone takes a turn to share and tell the story of what's happening in their model. Now, we talk about thinking with your hands or thinking with your fingers. Let your fingers do the thinking. And I see a question, Cordana. Is it an in-person event only? No, it isn't. It can also be done online. Over COVID, it was. But I think personally, I find it's more effective when you're doing it in an in-person environment. But certainly you can be doing it online, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the training. So as we go around with the model, and people are telling the stories on the model. In many cases, the story has emerged in the process of the building. They didn't know what the story would be at the outset when they were given the question, but as they have built their model, put the bricks together, the story has emerged. And this is happening because it's tapping into other parts of the brain. Then we go round and everyone shares their story of their particular model, their response to the question or the issue. And this is where one of the other powerful aspects of the Lego Series Play method. It creates a level playing field where everyone shares, everyone listens. Now, you might be used to working with a team or a group and, got one or two extroverts who, they like to be talking a lot of the time and they dominate the space. And there are others who may be quieter or more introverted and they want to take time to think about something. And they may not get a chance to speak. But in this methodology, everyone gets a chance to share, to contribute their ideas or their understandings into the process. So it's a very democratic process. Now, once you've done the individual share, then that's where you go to the next stage, where it might be with a group or a team, depending on the situation, and then going on from there into what we call a system level model. And all the way through this, there are insights and conversations that are happening. And ultimately, there should be better outcomes as a result. So this is a graphic that gives another way of looking at it. One, you start with the question, you move into the build, everyone is sharing. And then the fourth part, which I haven't mentioned yet, is that we encourage everyone to take a photo of what they've built, to capture what their build was. Now, it doesn't, frequently it's not possible for people to take away what they've built and have it sitting on the desk or on a bookshelf, but they've got a photo of it. They're able to look back at the photo and maybe come back in the planning process or another process and had that reminder of what it was that they built. So what is the advantage of using Lego Serious Play over maybe just having a group discussion or maybe using post-it notes or sticky notes on a board and using a whiteboard? What you're doing in the process of the building, what everyone's doing, is you're externalizing what's happening here in your mind, what's happening inside you. And you're taking ideas and you're creating an external representation of that idea or the issue or the emotions that you're having. This is a little bit different from how Lego is used as a toy, because when you're building something, and Lego, as many of you are probably familiar with, you're creating a representation of something that is physical. So it might be a house or a car or, it's something else like that. It's a robot. It's something that's physical that people can see. This is where Lego Serious Play methods is different because you're building a representation of what's inside your mind or maybe in your heart in terms of emotions. What it's doing is it's separating when you're building that external um, representation is you're actually separating your identity from the idea or the issue. And it's what's called embodied cognition. But it becomes easier to talk, particularly if it's a difficult issue, it becomes more um, easier for people to talk because they're being less vulnerable. It's less about them, and they're now talking about the model. And this is where the communication can become a lot clearer and a lot fuller. This means that you can get an increase in the range of ideas that are shared. There's often a better understanding and clarity gained through the process of having done the building. Putting something together, you actually understand what's happening better. And when you have this, often if you're working with a group or a team, you're able to actually speed up the process of whatever it is you're working on. You're able to come to a resolution faster because you're now have an equal say in what's going on. You are able to use the same language because you're hearing how everyone else is describing what's happening. You can develop this shared language and shared understanding and move to a decision or an understanding of what's the next step faster. And as I mentioned, it's a very democratic process. But where is this being used? Well, Lego Serious Play initially started with the Lego Group, and this was in the late 1990s. And then they formed a management consultancy unit within Lego that was taking the Lego Serious Play methods out to other major companies. And in 2010, they realized they came to the point where they said, no, we aren't a management consultancy. Our core business, where all of our resources are going, is actually in the manufacturing of the Lego bricks. So at that point, they had a decision to make in terms of, well, do we just let it die, or do we let it go for others to be able to continue developing? And so they let it go and they made it open source. And there were a number of people who had been trained and were facilitators at that point who'd been started. They basically set up their own training organizations and facilitation organizations in different parts of the world. And it became open for anyone to be able to access. Now, there are um, there are some requirements around how we use the term Lego Serious Play. I won't go into that here, but we talk a little bit about that in the training. But the only connection we now have with the Lego Group is that they continue to manufacture some of the special kits for Lego Serious Play. Do you need to have the special kits? No, you don't. It's a Lego Serious Play method. The kits themselves have some advantages, but if you don't have access to the kits, you can still do this. But as you can see from some of these logos, a lot of major companies that are using this, major organizations, military in a number of countries are using it. I know, aside from the States, it's used here in Canada, but it's used in Singapore, and the military in Singapore are using this. But it's also used in a number of educational institutions around the world. And this is part of where my initial interest was using Lego Serious Play within a university environment. And so this again gives you an idea of some of the universities using it. We've got Oxford, Cambridge, MIT, Harvard Business School, they're all using this. And I don't see any reason why every university couldn't be using it. And schools, international schools, private schools are using it as well. Because of the cost of the Lego and the training, up to now, it hasn't really moved into the public schooling system. But I can see a time when it does become a lot more widespread in the public schooling system as well. We're still in the early days of this. We're moving from what I call the innovator stage, where there's really only a very small number of people who are using it, into the early adopter stage. And so this is where there's a rapidly growing interest in the use of Lego Serious Play. There is now more people who have heard of it and going, oh yes, this sounds like something I'd like to be able to use. And so we're seeing this a huge level of demand is now starting to rise up in terms of training for this. Where is it used? Well, I often just say it depends. No, the limit is your imagination. I keep hearing of new places and new um, applications for the use of Lego Serious Play. I was talking with a facilitator in London last week, he's using it. He's actually doing his doctorate dissertation around this and around a very specific usage of Lego Serious Play he's developed, and he's using this in prisons with prisoners and helping them in terms of dealing with conflict resolution and communication. And he said he's saving lives with this. Said he from what he had seen, were probably 200 lives had been saved from his use, teaching prisoners how to use Lego. He's also using this for in terms of some of the other areas, potentially drug addicts and first attenders in terms of emergencies, and really being able to debrief some of the stress that they have to deal with and being able to use it in that area. The roots of this was very much in corporate, as I mentioned with Lego, strategic planning, visioning, working out what is the direction that our organization is going in. And so it continues to be widely used in this area, but it's grown from that. Team development, very powerful when you're working with teams with this. And training, it's an engaging way to be able to deliver the training material. With coaching, a friend of mine based in Los Angeles has developed a whole training program for coaches around using Lego Serious Play. And this has been recognized by the International Coaching Federation. And so he's now starting to train others in this methodology. It's used in professional sports in terms of working out things like tactics and different approaches to doing things. In innovation labs, with design thinking, that's often been used as a tool in that area. Change management is another big area where if you have a merger of two organizations coming together and you're having to find a new way to work together, the use of Lego Series Play is quite a powerful tool to use in that process. Now, in the right-hand column, I'm just focused on the education, some of the education applications that have come across. There's research on nurse training that's been published. Um, Initially, this started in business schools. Business schools were hearing about its use in some of the major corporations, and they went, "Oh, we should take this on for use with students." English lit classes. This is an example that Michael Fern's come up with. It has, from one of the people he trained, where a teacher teaching Shakespeare would have the students recreating the scene with the Lego. Now, what do they understand happening in that scene using the Lego? And so this is helping to increase their understanding, the sense, what I call the sense making of what's happening in the literature. I've used it in academic writing, been used in a number of places, engineering and tourism. Career guidance is a big area where working with the student in terms of imagining, having them build what they imagine their career or what they'd like to be doing in 5 years' time. By having them build that image of themselves at some point in the future, they're able to access some of the things that they may not immediately think of. But again, that's this thinking with their fingers. It brings out insights that they may not have, but it becomes a very useful tool when working in the career guidance space. I've heard of PhD programs using it with their PhD students in terms of mapping out, their research trajectory and using it to explore ideas for doctorate studies. And then the peace studies I've got down there, that this is actually at a much lower level in the K through 12 system, actually being able to use it in peace studies, exploring again different ideas within that and using the Lego as a tool. So, this isn't comprehensive. There was a post I saw up on LinkedIn right before, no, about an hour ago from one of my students in Solvay last year who has shared how useful she's used it in her role in an English language school and in the marketing. And she gave some actual numbers in terms of the improvement on their basically within the school as a result of using the Lego and how it had made a very tangible difference in terms of their operations. And I didn't even take her through the full Lego Series Play training. She was just basing the work, what she's doing with it, on what I had taught as part of the master's course she took with me last year. So, very powerful tool that can be used in many areas. Anywhere where you're having conversations, particularly if they're difficult conversations or you've got complex issues, this is a very useful tool. So at this point, I want to maybe just open up, and I'm going to stop the share. Well, I'm going to see, does anyone want to share who's been through the training and is using Lego Serious Play now? David.
I mean, yeah, I can talk about it if you would
Okay,
like.
so I'm going to just okay, I should have practiced this beforehand. But just sorry, I was looking to stop the sharing, and it's so that anyway, you're up on screen. Go ahead.
So I went through the LSP facilitation training with David in June, along with Thais. And my background is I work in facilitation and training, mostly in with corporate clients here in Malaysia and in Singapore. And we have been looking for ways to engage our participants and to get people to go beyond the kind of the surface level reflection. Much of the work that we do ask people to reflect and to express ideas and possibilities. And to be honest, what we found in the traditional facilitation method is that they wouldn't really go beyond the standard responses. Just to give you an idea, in the context of a one-day workshop, some people would be familiar with each other, some people wouldn't, and there's quite a high, what you might call, affective filter. So people are not willing to go very deep, and we found that LSP is a really useful tool for, as David mentioned, externalizing issues and also helping people to explore and organize their own thoughts on a particular topic, especially in areas that might be difficult conversations or might be, for example, analyzing and in some cases criticizing structures within an organization, and might be going against a kind of an accepted narrative. And also we found it really useful for getting individual perspective, because another challenge that we face as facilitators is kind of group thinking. And Lego Serious Play is really useful because there isn't, I mean, in my experience, I'm not sure that the method allows necessarily for group thinking, at least at the individual building stage. And that's been really powerful to gather that individual perspective before then working on more collaborative models later on. So I've done around 25 of these sessions with clients here in Malaysia, and I'm really struck by how intuitive it is. So often when you talk about LSP to people who haven't used this method, there's some skepticism, and they often say, well, people just won't do it or they won't get it. Now, in my limited experience, that's never been true. So always, even people, I had somebody yesterday who said she's never used Lego in her life. And within, a minute, she'd built her own model, completely unprompted. So what I like to do is I will put the Lego on the table and have space for people to come and just free form before we start any of the process. And so what this showed me is it really is, like I said, intuitive, and it's something that people engage with and get. And it breaks it kind of breaks the expectation a little bit as well. So it's something that I'm learning. And what's really nice is that through this practice, you can start to really adapt and tailor your process. I know that there are different theories and different ideas on how far you can and should go with that. But what I found with this training, particularly the one offered by David, the LSP method, is there is definitely room for that adaptation and development, which is really something I appreciate. So yeah, it's going very well so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing to grow.
Great. Thank you, David. I appreciate that sharing. I haven't heard from you as to how that was going. So that's
I've
great.
been too busy. That's too many sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thijs, do you want to share anything at all, or maybe about the training?
Well, for me, it's like the LSP method is it's just great fun to work. This is more when I'm or like when I'm actually joining a facilitation, like I did a few times with you so far. So as a participant, I think the part that strikes me most is that it's a much easier way to be curious about both yourself, but also the people who you are actually in the group with. So it just brings people back to the part where I find out many things about people that I wouldn't have, especially in such a short period of time than when you actually just normally talk to them. So, and the funny thing is, by letting them do it, people also find out themselves what they actually don't know, and that's also kind of a funny way to see happening during those sessions as a participant. For myself as a facilitator, I haven't been able to do facilitation sessions yet on Lego Serious Play. It's a bit quieter here. But it did give me the time to actually implement some of these, some of the Lego Serious Play concepts into my existing trainings. And those parts are actually quite nice. It's kind of funny to see, like, how Lego Serious Play then actually allows people to, in for example, part of the training, do expectation or goal setting, or basically work through a first bit of exercise, but then start to actually actively connect elements of what they've learned to Lego pieces or set pieces that they've built themselves. And then all of a sudden, the bits of theory that people have learned actually stick much better with them because they've represented them in some way. And playing around with that by just building content around it is actually quite powerful because it adds this element where that you didn't have before, or that I did have to some extent, but it takes much more time to actually bring that out of people. So it speeds up the process and it makes it more entertaining, through that much more engaging. So yeah, it adds a lot of, for me, it's like a lot of enrichment, to what I've already been doing.
Great. Thank you, Thijs. Is there anyone
Sure.
else who'd like to share at this point? I'm not sure if there's anyone else with experience with it. Okay, so you've heard from a couple of others in terms of how it has worked for them, the impact that they have seen through the use of it. And we could probably continue on with some stories on that, but at this point, I want to talk about the training, so aware of time and so on. So I've got, and this is true with many of the trainings internationally. Well, it's always small groups. I'm limiting it to 8, often 12, maybe higher end limit. I know there are others that only work with 5 or 6 people. So every time we had the training, there are only limited spaces in it. Now, I've got a couple of different formats that I'm now offering. One is the two full day workshops. So it'd be weekday and coming in. But because of the demand I've heard from educators, I've developed another version where we can do it at the weekend, but it's a Friday night. So you come in for 3 hours, 2.5 hours on a Friday night, all day on Saturday, and then a half day on Sunday. And this, um, I, I'm going to be offering both of these when I'm in Vietnam in August. And this first offering in Vancouver will be also in this evening, full day, weekend type format. As there's a number of educators who have requested for certification training here in Vancouver. It is a very much a hands-on experience, the training. Ideally, we have 2 tables set up. One table we sit around to talk and explanation, and that's where some of the training takes place. And then we have another table with the Lego set up. And that's where you go and you do the building. And we talk about the building and we move between the 2 tables. You do some building and then we reflect on the process and what was happening in that when you were doing the building. Some of the other, and there are a number of trainers offering Lego Serious Play. Some of the others go into depth at the systems level as well. This is a lot more complex. We introduce the systems level training in what we are doing with LSP method, but we don't go into the depth in that because the reality is that it doesn't get used very often. Most of the sessions that people use in the LSP method that we find is 2 to 3 hours. And so that's where we focus most of the training. But as part of the training, we'll talk about the history of Lego Serious Play and introduce you to some of the other people offering training and some of where they sit in the broader field. The neuroscience, the learning science behind Lego Serious Play. I will be providing a document that gives the legal and the trademark requirements around Lego Serious Play and how we talk about it. But what I can promise you is you're going to have fun. Fun and laughter is a big part of what happens as well. So the takeaways, if you're certainly for an educator or you're having your organization pay for this, you want to know what is it, the takeaways. Well, you'll be able to label yourself as a certified Lego Serious Play methods facilitator at the end. And we'll be providing both a hard copy certificate. I haven't pictured that up there, but you also have a digital badge, digital credential that you'll be able to put on LinkedIn and wherever else. You'll be able to include on your website to show that you are now a certified LEGO Serious Play Methods facilitator. In the process of the training, you will have experienced a step-by-step process of a session. So you'll know and have talked through and pulled apart how a session is put together. And then you would have been able to at least begin drafting a plan for your first LEGO Serious Play session. Now, you may not have it finished, you may need some support after that, and I'm available, and this is just free. We're available to support you, as is Michael Fern, who is the master trainer based out of Australia. Michael, with the LSP method, also has a community, a website, and a whole community that you will join. And as part of that, you'll be able to access more resources. There are videos that basically mirror what we cover in the course. So you can go back and revise different parts of the training if you need to. There are other videos with more advanced level looking at specific topics. There's a video up there at the moment around questioning, developing the good questions, because the setup, the questions that are asked are important in terms of coming up with good results, good insights. You need to get the setup done well. So that's all part of the site, and you get access to that for basically a lifetime access. As long as the site's there, you'll get access to that for free. It's all been included in the price of the training. There'll be a LEGO Serious Play methodology workbook and manual that I'm doing a little bit of revision from what we were doing in June, but you'll have that to take away, be able to refer to, certainly in the earlier days. There'll be an electronic version of Michael Fern's book, The LSP Method, that you'll have access to. And then there's a bonus. And I've got, this is guaranteed for the first 10 people in Vietnam. The numbers may be higher. It really depends how many kits I can fit into my luggage. But I can guarantee that there will be at least 10 that we will have in Vietnam, and probably a little bit higher than that. But the first 10 registered will receive a LEGO Serious Play Method starter kit. Now, the starter kit, David, how useful was the starter kit for you?
This starter kit's fantastic because what it gives you is a real frame of reference as to which bricks, and you may be thinking as aspiring LSP users and trainers, what kit do I need? This gives you a wonderful reference for the kind of bricks that can take on metaphors and stories. So I found it really useful in informing, what I give to my participants when I'm doing the training, and also thinking about what might be possible in terms of changing things up a bit. So it's wonderful. I keep my kit separate, so I've always got it kind of just for me.
Right.
I love it.
Okay, thank you. So, in many of the conventional Lego kits, you'll find that there aren't a lot of pieces that are good for metaphors. And so you want to be looking for those. The Serious Play kits have those. They're providing elephants and ladders and doors and windows and all kinds of things that can be used in terms of the metaphors and the storytelling. One of the things I've found is that you want to go beyond the official Lego kits. I've gone and bought other kits that are compatible with Lego, things like doors and windows, because Lego isn't actually very powerful. Don't have a lot of doors and windows in their kits. But the Lego Serious Play starter kit does give you a starting point in terms of being able to work with other people. The recommendation is that if you're doing 10 people, you have a group of 10 that you're doing facilitation with, you would have 10 kits. I find you don't need 10 kits. You can use other bricks. But this is a good starting point, and you'll have one as part of the training. Now, these kits you can't get in retail stores, and but not yet available in Vietnam. In fact, they're only available in about 10 countries around the world at this point. But I've been talking with Lego about having these available in Vietnam. They are available here in Canada, but you won't find them. If you walk into a Lego store anywhere in the world, you won't find those kits available. You actually have to order them from Lego. Lego in Vietnam is they're starting production next month from their factory, a huge $1 billion factory. So they're going to be ramping up. They're really ramping up their operations, and I'm hopeful that as part of that, I'm showing that there is a demand for the Lego Serious Play kits in Vietnam, that they will be not immediately, but they will become available hopefully in the not too distant future in Vietnam as well. So at this point, I'd like to open it up for questions. Please feel free to either drop it in the chat or unmute your mic and come on.
There are a
Yes,
couple of questions in the
Dana.
chat, I think.
Yeah, I asked in the chat. So
Yeah, right,
I
okay.
saw online there's a basic and advanced certificate, and you mentioned that you have pro. So what's the
Okay.
difference between the three?
There are different trainers have different forms of certification and training. So what we're offering is basically what I call it's a foundational training. I wouldn't call it basic. You're actually able to go quite far with it. But it's just a straight certification. Now, I've got pro in my trainer designation. This is just something that Michael did for the partners, for the trainers that he's brought in. He's saying the certified pro trainer. Otherwise, people are facilitators. And with the other trainers, they're often doing training around specific methodology. They'll have a foundational course that everyone will do, but you will be able to go and take an advanced course with someone else after you've done this. This will give you the foundations that you can be able to use with anyone else. I want to be advanced typically is moving into the systems level. And in reality, most people don't use that very often.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Okay, yes, so yeah. When you run a session, what is a good size of people? Different trainers, different people have different feelings on this. If you're facilitating on your own, often 12 to 14 is seen as being the maximum that you should work with. However, when you're teaching, I'm a university lecturer. I had 30 in the class, and I don't have any problems with being able to work with 30. It really depends on the nature of the question and what you're asking people to do. But that's really on the educational side. Almost always there'll be bigger groups. Outside of that, in organizations, it tends to be smaller groups, 6 to 12. You probably, unless you're in a coaching situation, you probably want a minimum of 3 or 4 people. It depends on what it is. But 6 people is a good number for this. You can go to 12. If you've got 12 people, now if you're doing training and you have a table, if you have 12 people, I wouldn't want to do them as one group. I would recommend a maximum of 6 people in a group. Split them up. If I have 8 people in my training, I'll actually split them into 2 tables, 2 groups of 4. But having said that, I know people who have used this in conferences with several hundred people, 400 people. And there's a particular way that you would approach this, but absolutely possible. How do you draw in people who are reticent and don't engage with the bricks? Yeah, that's a good question, David. Have you had some people who have been reticent in any of your?
Yeah, I think because I do large groups,
Hmm,
so up to 40 people along the model that you said there with maybe six groups of six or seven.
yeah,
And I'd say regularly there are some people who don't feel, most people dive in, and some people don't feel confident or comfortable
hmm.
because they still, I think, associate Lego with being a toy. So I'm just curious as to
Sure.
what your thoughts are on that.
One of the things, and I didn't include this in this introduction. One of the things I will almost always do in my sessions is I'll start by saying, you may remember that Lego as a toy, or you may see it as a toy. I want you to forget about that. I want you to see Lego as a tool, as a system. So that's the first level. And then there is that first part of a session when you do a skills build. The skills build is where people start to get that thing of, okay, it is working differently. This is where they may never have used Lego before, and I've had a few of those people in sessions, and they pick it up very quickly, um, but who are uncertain about what to expect. And we had an example of this when we took it into Pizza 4Ps, and the CEO actually, with the founder, struggled in that first build to actually be able to do it. But because it was a skills build, it didn't really matter. And he went shifting from saying, I don't really have a story, I just put some bricks together, to when they're doing the individual build, his second build, he had a story and he was able to move into that. So it's really just encouraging, well, don't worry, just start putting bricks together, see what emerges. Just encourage them to just get their hands on the bricks and start putting them together. Okay. I am in Ho Chi Minh City. How can I register for the class in August? Love to hear that, Fan. Lynn, I'm going to talk about that in a moment, right after the questions. Are there any other questions before I move into the last part of the presentation? Okay, so what I'm talking about is really more focused for Vietnam audience. If you're in Vancouver or Canada and wanting to come up, it will be a little bit different, but it will give you an idea of what to expect. So the Vietnam training, we've now moved to having two sessions, two cohorts in Ho Chi Minh City. I just had a feeling from the word of mouth and the people that were messaging me saying, "Hey, when are you doing this? I want to be part of it." That it made sense to do two cohorts. So we've got a weekday cohort all day on the Monday, Tuesday, and then we have a weekend cohort for any educators. We're going to do a weekday again in Hanoi, partly because the educators I anticipate may be part of that won't have started classes yet. The full cost of this, 1,700 US dollars, and if you compare this to training being offered by any of the others elsewhere in the world, you'll see it's good value. I had a couple of people from RMIT when I was there in June who had just come back from the States. They paid $5,500 for a 4-day training, and they had the travel costs and hotels on top of that. So this really is good value. But you're on this call. We have a early bird discount, so take $100 off that and bring it down to $1,600. And this includes VAT. So no, the VATs. So what we are actually getting paid is less than this. So it's actually less than 1,500 because we've included the tax in the overall cost. The Vancouver training, we're looking at weekend format, 6th to the 8th of September. Now, in both cases, we're still working on the venues. Now, in Ho Chi Minh City, we anticipate one of the venues will be Family Garden in District 2, We just haven't decided which cohort will be there. And we're looking for a venue in District 7 for the other training. And so we're still working on that, but hopefully in the next week or so that will be settled and confirmed, and we'll be able to let everyone know where we're doing it. But ideally, one will be in District 7, one will be in District 2. In Hanoi, uncertain yet, maybe at one of the universities, and if not there, probably the Improv Hub close to Wang Kim Lake. There is a wonderful little space that would be ideal for this. Vancouver, we're still working on the venue. I may have confirmation on that in the next day or two. But again, I'll be posting more information as that comes available. So in Vietnam, we have a registration form, and it's really a registration of interest form. And we had the link, and maybe if you can drop the link for this into the chat, Tice. So this will take you, that link will take you to a form where you can register. And then the next step is that Tice or Ni from BetterWorks Asia, they will send out a draft contract for you, as we need to do a contract for something like this, for you to check if you want it in terms of business and having business details. That's when all that gets worked out, and the payment details, how you would actually pay for this. Now, if you need a red invoice, again, this is very specific for Vietnam. We'll be providing red invoices for you. So this is all good for in terms of taxes. At that point, you make a payment, and you'll sign a sign-on version of the contract when you come to the training. Now, if you need, in terms of refunds, if you find that you can't attend after you've paid, our policy on this is that we'll give a full refund up to 3 days before the training, or you'll have the option of shifting your payment to a later training. If it's within 3 days, then you have the option of shifting your registration to a later training or getting a 50% refund. So that's how we're handling it. I think it's a pretty generous approach for this. We understand that things come up at the last minute, and we don't want to overly penalize you for that. So that's the registration process. There are several steps that we go through in Vietnam with that. It isn't just put in your credit card number and it's all done. If you have any questions, I'll be available after this, so I will stay on for a little bit. Or you can email either Tice or myself. We've got the email addresses there, and the links also on the slides. Now, I'm going. Do you had this slide file, don't you, Tice? And maybe we'll upload the slides as well into the chat so you can download those. But with that, I'm finished. But and thank you all for coming along this evening. I appreciate you spending an hour here, and I look forward to seeing at least some of you in the training. And if you have David, I guess you're in Malaysia. I'm hoping to have dinner with people from the last training later in August when I'm there. And unless you want to can fly over for it.
I might be able to. I think on the 20th, I've got a session here in KL,
Okay.
but I was looking at maybe being in Ho Chi Minh City, maybe around the time of the second training, so we could catch
Okay.
up and
Yeah,
get a bite. That would be
possibly
great.
that Saturday night may be a possibility. And we
Yeah,
may actually, I'll
fantastic.
make that, we might make shift instead of the Monday night, I think, to the Saturday night for everyone. So useful to know. We'll try and get everyone together on that.
Yeah, I'll let you know exactly. I need to confirm.
Great, great. Thank you. So with that, I will stop the recording.